welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us on this Thursday afternoon. Super excited to get to spend about 45 minutes or so with everybody today and share some of the top tips that we're recognizing for the year of 2022. So for the rest of the year. A bit about me for everyone that isn't aware. I know we have some people here that are familiar with myself and with VisitorQ, but for those that aren't, my name's Nick. I am the co-founder and CEO here at VisitorQ. While some of the other attendees, I'm sure, realize this, I wear a lot of different hats within the company, but one of the major things that I look after and major hats that I wear is overseeing our marketing and sales department. And I probably spend the plurality of my time working on marketing and sales for the company. And through that, over the past 4 years, we've been able to scale up to work with a few thousand brands across the globe using lead generation, B2B, and sales and marketing tactics. And we work with smaller SMB companies and very large companies. So a plethora, all different industries. So we've picked up a few tricks along the way. I won't take all the credit, obviously, for it. We have a great team and a great product. And throughout the process, we've begun sharing some of these things that we've learned with our community, whether it be our What the Growth videos, our blog posts, and now for our first webinar of 2022, this webinar series. I'm currently located in London, Ontario, Canada. The VisitorQ team is spread out. We have a few members here in Canada as well, some members in the US now, and some members in Eastern Europe, and more specifically, quite a few members in Ukraine. And if anybody has friends, family, colleagues there right now, I hope that they're all safe. I know I've been checking in with my team quite frequently there's a lot of uncertainty right now, but I think we can all agree, let's just hope for an outcome, a good outcome for everybody there. Before VisitorQ, I worked at a marketing agency working with B2B brands, mostly on SEO and SEM, so search engine optimization, search engine marketing, and saw some success there, and then moved to a marketing manager and market and sales manager position at Ontario's largest health and safety training company, and built up that department. So while founding VisitorQ and having the experience there, I've also worked in a lot of similar positions as other members of the webinar today have, of a marketing and sales manager. And also in the spare time that I have, I teach digital marketing at the local college here as a professor of marketing. And I am also a board member of one of the graduate programs at that college. And that graduate program's in the customer relationship management and the marketing space as well. So I like to think that I have a bit of experience on that side and a few tips that I'd like to share with people. I enjoy talking about B2B lead generation almost as much as just a fun fact. I'm also a big craft beer fan. Fridays and or Saturdays, you can find me testing out some of the good local craft beer at one of the breweries in town, or my fiance and I actually travel quite frequently to breweries outside of our town, and whenever we're on vacation, try to find the local brewery. But yeah, that's a bit about me, but you're not here to learn all about me. Let's jump into our agenda for today. The really 4 key points we're going to talk about. We'll go through the top tips for B2B revenue teams in 2022. And then we have a bonus tip to share with you. And then we'll go through things to keep your eyes on for later 2022 and beyond, some trends that we're seeing and some things that we think will be big in the years after. Or could be big. They're showing proof of that. Then we'll move into a Q&A session. We'll have about 20, 15 minutes at the end for any Q&A you have. But as we go through as well, there's a Q&A section. Taylor from our team will be monitoring that and answering questions as we go through. But anything else that's left over, I'll get to at the end. And I'll also leave some time if you want to submit some at the end as well. And just FYI, this is being recorded because we plan on reusing this at a later date as an on-demand webinar. And there's a tip within it. If you're hosting a webinar, record it and then reuse that piece of content later on. But that is not one of the tips. So let's jump right into our first tip for revenue teams in 2022. And this one you've probably heard over the last few years. Tip one is all about automation, and it's been a hot trend for a while and continues to be a hot trend and will continue to move in that direction. If you've heard of automation, but you haven't got into the practice of, or don't fully understand what it means, it's simply moving data from one place, usually one software, to another, and or performing a task like emailing, like SMS, like a website pop-up based on that information. As you have seen your tech stack, your marketing stack, sales stack grow over the past 5 to 10 years from, hey, we only had a CRM to begin with, and now we have all these other tools that we're also working with. You've probably noticed it's tough to have data consistency and limit the amount of time that you're spending moving data from one place to another. So the big takeaway here is, and I'll get to something super practical after this because that's what I like to, those are the content that I like to share, super practical stuff. So you actually have takeaways, but try to integrate everything that you can. You'll save time and save money. I know it seems at times where it's like, oh, I just have to do this one data export once a month and then move it over. Eventually, if you automate that process, you'll save time and money in the long run, and also data consistency. While humans are great at a lot of things, the second we manually have to do something with data, we have the potential to compromise the data consistency. So automating as much as possible, leave it to the machines to manage all of that. And while you're like, okay, how do we go about this? CRMs are becoming very good at this. If you haven't taken your first few shots at automating a lot of your processes, use your CRM, look at your CRM. Most have email automation functionality now, SMS automation, website automation functionality, and so on. And if your CRM isn't covering everything that you need, as it probably won't, the big takeaway from this one tip for everybody, if you haven't used Zapier already, I recommend looking into Zapier. As more software comes out, it's harder for them to all build native integrations with one another, right? You might use a small mom and pop software that doesn't integrate with your CRM, or you're just not able to integrate all of your software because they can't natively build out all those integrations. Zapier acts as a good third-party plugin between all those platforms where you can say, and I'll give an example, and it integrates with 3,000 different software. An example from VisitorQ, we use a website called involve.me to build a quiz that people can go through to see how many leads we can identify for their website. Involve.me, smaller company, but we use a CRM called keep.com. Keep is a larger company, formerly Infusionsoft, and they don't integrate with one another. I think Involve.me has like 5 employees. Keep is at like 1,000. So they don't integrate with one another natively, but they do both integrate with Zapier. So Zapier acts as that third-party plugin. We're able to now take the data that is submitted via that quiz, integrate via Zapier with keep.com. And then once all that data flows into keep.com, we're able to run email automations that follow up with the individual that submitted the quiz in keep.com. So that is a perfect example of just a simple automation process and one that utilizes Zapier to do it. You don't have to utilize Zapier. If you can find native integrations, definitely recommend utilizing the native integration, but Zapier is that good stopgap in that case. And it's very, very easy to use. I remember when I first heard of it, I'm like, okay, I don't know how to program. I don't know how to do any on the software side. So I won't be able to do the integration. It's not like, it doesn't take software knowledge or anything like that. It's a very, very easy platform to use, pretty much like a WYSIWYG builder. Simply pick the software that you want to integrate first, and the action that takes place. In the example I just gave, it would be someone submits the quiz. Based on that action, we pick the second software, which is keep.com, and the result of it, which is create a contact record in keep.com. You map over the data, you say, this is where I want the data to go. And that becomes your automation component. Anytime a quiz is submitted, it goes into keep.com. And then we take it a step further and actually send an email automation based on that. Okay, that is tip number one. Automate as much as you possibly can wherever you can. It'll save you time and headaches, time, money, and headaches later on that are caused by data inconsistency. Tip number two, Quora. So I've been a big fan of Quora for a while. I've written some articles on it. I did a What the Growth on it as well, which is our video series for growth tips, but continues to be a big trend for 2022 and only getting stronger. Think of Quora as the Yahoo Answers of 2022. I don't remember if Yahoo Answers is still around. I think it is. If you're not familiar with Yahoo Answers, pretty much a forum where people ask questions and then other people, answer those questions. And that's really it. And other people can view those questions and those answers and so on. Quora as a marketing tactic is very underutilized. It can help you build authority and drive leads. And you can really do this via two different distinctions, organic and paid. And I'll go into each of those now. And VisitorQ uses both of these. So the first one being Quora Organic, where you're looking, because people post questions, you can find those questions and answer them in a helpful manner. And then other people will see that answer, right? That are searching for a similar question. So the tactic here for Quora Organic is to go through all of your questions, that you find all relevant questions, write about 2 to 3 paragraphs for each question. And then in that paragraph, in that answer that you're answering the question, you promote your business slightly. Don't want to plug it too hard. You don't necessarily have to, but sorry, I was just looking at someone's message there to make sure everyone can hear me. Yeah, promote your business a little bit. You don't have to be too aggressive with it. You can also put your business title, your name, and so on in the top section of your bio, so they're able to see your business. And then rinse and repeat. Do this about 5 to 6 times per week, answering all relevant questions to your business. And you'd be surprised about the questions that are in there. Everybody hears from different industries, different segments that they're targeting, but you'd be surprised the type of questions that you see on Quora and how specific they can be to your business, to the point where they might even be asking about your competitors or your company directly on Quora, as we've seen that with Quora. And answering those questions is beneficial to get our brand in front of those companies. So that's Quora Organic. The other side is Quora Paid. So like many other platforms like Facebook and Twitter and all these other, they have a good following. They have a lot of people that view their questions. So they started their own ad platform that you can see in this picture here. And to be completely honest, it's better than Facebook and Twitter. AdWords is good and definitely comparable, but Quora's has less bugs in it for sure. Much easier to use, much simpler, and a big part, it's much more cost effective. It feels like the early days of Facebook advertising and what I was told that the early days of AdWords advertising was like, and even Twitter advertising, where it's very cost effective. You pay a few cents per click depending on your targeting. So you can get a lot of bang for your buck and a lot of a lot of eyeballs on your brand using the Quora paid. They have a few different options. You can remarket to your website visitors on Quora. So when they go look at an answer, you can put your brand, a picture of your product, an answer to a question, or some text advertisement in front of them. The other option, which is perfect, is question targeting. So you go through and you answer them via organic, as I mentioned in the last tip, and then you're able to promote that answer right to the top. And I recommend doing this for any highly relevant questions. So let me see who's in the audience today, see if I can pick out a business that would be applicable. Okay, I got a few in here. So someone in the group owns a marketing agency. So on Quora, you might see a question of who's the best B2B marketing agency in Seattle, which is likely a question you could find on Quora, and people are viewing it, people are answering it. You as a marketing agency in Seattle likely want to answer that question organically, and then people will see that based on how well the answer does. But I also recommend boosting your answer to the top so that they can see it. So that question targeting is very unique to Quora and very powerful as well. Okay, that's tip 2, Quora. Tip 3 is website personalization. For everyone that isn't familiar with website personalization, it's simply the ability to personalize a website based on the visitor's characteristics. So changing up what the website looks like based on that person that's visiting the website. And to give an example, if you show a specific version of the website to a new visitor versus a returning visitor, it's a common way where you might want to personalize it, or show a different version to Canada versus the United States, another common way to personalize the website. And what this allows you to do is increase your website conversion rate. If you've ever been on Amazon, does a really good job of this. Most of your big e-commerce stores will do a really good job at this, which goes to my next point of mostly it's B2C right now that are leveraging it. But if you can personalize the website in a meaningful way, you can increase conversion rate for that website and for your business. It's currently at B2C, like I said, but soon to be in B2B, which leads to our next item here. Bit of a plug for Visitor Queue, I guess, but a bit of heads up on what we're working on and what's coming out in the next few months as well. For the first time, B2B companies will be able to leverage website personalization like B2C companies have been able to. And with the Visitor Queue's current capabilities, the unique ways that we'll be able to do that is, let's say that you're industry agnostic. You work with a bunch of different industries. You would be able to show one version of your website to someone from the retail sector and another to the construction sector. And that's powerful because in the retail sector, you can show them all your case studies, all your logos that you work with, all the use cases and so on from the construction sector. And then the same in retail, where you could say, just show this version. So that way the retail sector goes, oh, they work with other companies in retail. We recognize these other logos. We want to work with this company. How this might be relatable to some other people on the call is the size of the company. So if you work with SMB and enterprise, they want to see different content. You don't want to be showing the same content to SMB and enterprise, because the enterprise client wants to know that you work with other enterprises. SMB, same thing. So you'd be able to show different versions of the website depending on the actual size of the company and more. I'll get off of this point, but something we're very excited about, something we think will help a lot of B2B companies to personalize their website in a meaningful way. Tip 4, more content. So content is certainly continuing to explode in popularity. I'm sure most people here are already on the content train, writing blogs, creating ebooks, resource centers, and so on. You can see that it's becoming more popular if you've ever noticed jobs in orgs like content manager or content coordinator. Content is continuing to grow and become more specific as well. And what I mean by that is it becoming more hyper specific to your to the different use cases you have? So if your business has different use cases like running Facebook ads, or like it's your marketing agency, you have to run Facebook ads. You also do you help with LinkedIn ads, you do SEO and so on. Creating content that's specific to those use cases in order to attract new clients to your website, provide the resources that your current clients need, and so on. Big things to look out for: audio and video continue to grow in popularity. Look out for audio version of blog posts. I see that happening as well, where WordPress has a few different tools right now, and there's a number of other ones out there where you can get automatically create an audio version of any written content, like your blog post, and put a link at the top. So if someone doesn't want to read the blog post, they can natively actually listen to it as well. And the big thing here as well is customers expect it. They expect you to have more content to support them along the way. Most don't want to pick up the phone and talk to you, as I'm sure some do. But most of us would rather solve the issue right in front of us and do that via content. So having a fully loaded resource center, writing 2 blog articles a week, give or take, and writing and producing about 2 videos a month would definitely be beneficial, and what customers are beginning to expect of your business. Tip 5, optimize across the web. So like I'm sure most of you have been on the purchasing end of things, we do more research than ever before, and we're doing it before even contacting that company. And I know that most of us will perform very in-depth research and go to the ends of the internet in order to identify more information about that company. So the tip here is to research your company like your clients, and your industry like your clients would. Find all of the listings where your company is has a presence, and a lot of these listings you're not going to know about because they're automatically generated by the listing website as is. So claim all of those listings, optimize all of them with complete information. I'm talking go to the page 10 of Google, find all of your potential listings, everything in your industry, and optimize all of them, because you'd be surprised at who is still coming from those depths, those depths of the internet, and ending up on your website. So claim all of those, optimize them with complete information, add pictures, add links, and so on. And then any of them that offer a review platform, like many of them do, where people can leave reviews, drive reviews to all those different ones and incentivize customers to leave your reviews on there as well. So ask your customers, hey, would you leave us a review on this platform? And then if you're not getting the amount of reviews you want, incentivize them by sending them a $20 Amazon gift card or something along those lines. Something VisitorQ does. It doesn't have to be a positive review. We just ask if you leave us a review and provide a $20 Amazon gift card. And we see the number of reviews go up and better represented on those platforms. The first thing I think when I go on a platform and the company doesn't have reviews on there, is that they're brand new and they haven't been around long, which might affect my opinion of choosing them as a vendor, or B, that they don't have any good reviews. They're not doing a great job. So that's why the review count is down. So tip 5, find all your listings across the internet and optimize them completely. Tip 6, social selling. So definitely a buzzword, but it works. For everyone that's not familiar with what social selling is, it's simply using social media to sell. And I pretty much rearranged the words there. So let's go a bit more in depth on what that actually means. Social selling is at its practice of following, liking, and engaging with your clients and prospects on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, if you're comfortable with it. Mostly LinkedIn and Twitter will be your big ones, but following them on there, following, liking, whatever the term is for the specific platform, liking all of the content they're sharing or the content that you agree with, and engaging with that prospect as well in order to build rapport with them. You can't pick up the phone every day and talk to your prospect, but you can like one of their posts every day or everything that they're sharing to build that rapport, have that touch point with them, show them you're a fan, and that you support them. And once that rapport is built, eventually see the benefit on your business. Continues to grow in popularity. More companies are regularly adopting social selling, and overall, sales teams should be connecting and engaging with clients and prospects on these social platforms in order to build that relationship further. Tip 6, part of social selling as well, 6.1, I guess, and I wanted to include this because I see it happening more and more, is part of social selling, but more on the SMS side. So sending text messages to your prospects, to your clients, and so on. And we're not talking about inappropriate out of work messages. We're talking about providing them content, following up with them, and engaging with them via SMS. We have a number of larger clients that I regularly text, and we talk via text. It helps you build that rapport and that relationship even further in a more casual way than a phone call or an email will, and it adds another touch point. And you can easily automate it as well on top of that. So following up with people that have booked an appointment with you to remind them of the appointment via SMS, and you can automate a lot of that. Or building, as I mentioned, your sales reps, building that rapport using SMS that they gather via a contact form or an enrichment source for that contact. Okay. Next up is tip 7, and we're talking about gated and interactive content, a big one for 2022 and beyond. And it's interesting because what we saw in the early 2000s, later 2000s, and even into the 10s is that gated content was the norm. Most of your content was gated. And then as more people put out ungated content, everyone else did as well. I'm not putting behind a gate a piece of content that someone else is already offering for completely free. It just won't make sense. No one will sign up for it, right? And I'm losing value of having those people kind of at the top of my funnel via not having that content out there. So what we saw was the move from gated content to ungated content, and now we're seeing a move slightly back to using more gated content at the same time. The big thing here is it can't be regular content. You need to use it in conjunction and in combination with your free content, your blog content, and so on that you're regularly giving out. But you should be using your highly valuable content as a gated piece of content to increase your email database. Highly valuable content is pretty much something that other companies would have a hard time replicating, right? So an example might be like visitor queue, a sample data set where we can say, here is 100,000 companies or contact information, what have you, and putting a gated piece behind that. Industry reports, a lot of you will have unique stats and data that you can create an industry report that others can't replicate, that people would be willing to provide you their email address in exchange for. Ebooks, if you're putting that time into creating an ebook, very hard to replicate for other companies. We wrote one that's coming out this year as well. It took us a lot of time. We are going to be gating that so that people have to provide an email address in order to acquire. We use calculators and quizzes as well. Those are some good examples of some highly valuable content that you're going to want to gate in order to grow that email database. And then you can run those automations and that sales team on it. So the big tip here is don't be afraid to use gated content if you have highly valuable information, because you'll likely gain more leads from it than having it just open to anybody and having those people kind of float at the top of your funnel. Gating it, getting their email puts them directly into your funnel. Okay, tip 7, gated content. And tip 8 is update your old blogs, especially in 2022. I don't know, we'll go into the SEO side of things in just a moment, and I'll actually talk about it at the end of this tip. But content does expire. There's no real time frame on that Google said on when it should And even from an SEO standpoint, it doesn't really make sense to have a time frame on when things should expire, but they will expire. And what you'll see is that your content loses ranking, and you'll start seeing a drop in the amount of users you have viewing your content, or it will never rank in general. And what you should be doing is updating that content anywhere from 20 to 80% of the content in it. So the paragraphs, the words, and so on, anywhere from 20 to 80%, update it. And then change the publish date to the current date. And then Google's going to re-index that and say, okay, we like it now, or we don't like it now. It's updated, it's better, it's not, what have you. But you'll see a result of either your traffic's going to go up or it's going to stay where it is. So don't be afraid to update those old blog posts if they've started to lose ranking, and keep an eye on your old blog posts, because we have into the story of Visitor Queue, and I'll go into SEO changes in a moment. But Google made a big change in 2021, mid 2021, and we saw organic traffic on our blog drop in a few key blog articles. We tried a number of things. Most of them didn't create the result we were looking for in a drastic increase again. But what we saw worked was we updated them anywhere from 20 to 80% of the blog posts. And Taylor, who's moderating, did a lot of that work. We updated the current date and we republished it. Google looked at the article again and they said, okay, we like it now. And we started to rank better for that. And we're able to bring our traffic back up to where it was before, and gain a lot more leads from that content than we previously did. And the bonus tip before we go into what to look out for is just using Visitor Queue. Identify the anonymous companies that are on your website in 2022, feed them to your sales team, have them follow up, and drive more leads and more sales for your business using Visitor Queue. But I already plugged our new personalization feature, so I won't go too much into selling Visitor Queue here. But if you're looking to identify the anonymous companies on your website, we can help you with that. 14-day free trial at visitorqueue.com. And if you need anything, just reach out to our team. We'd be happy to help. Okay, keep your eyes on. I had too many good things to share, I think. Well, you guys will be the judge if they're good or not. But I had too many things I wanted to share, and some of them, they weren't ready to be a tip, but some big things to keep your eye out for in Q4 of 2022, and some of them towards the year after and the year after that. So some things to note for the following years that aren't tips yet. And of course, the millennial brings up TikTok. But I think I can make a case for this one that most will agree with. TikTok, for everyone that's not familiar, is a fast-growing social platform. They are pretty much the Vine of the last 2 years, and it simply allows you to share a short video and easily scroll through once, see another video, scroll through. So it's all video content, and a lot of it is trendy stuff where people do dances, funny kind of meme video style things. The reason I bring up TikTok here is that B2C brands are increasingly using TikTok from a paid and organic method in order to get in front of their clients, to demonstrate their product and get in front of their prospects and talk to their employees. And what happens, and this is where I think TikTok will go in regards to B2B brands, is B2B usually follows B2C in a number of things. In technology adoption, in social platforms, we're usually after B2C, right? They adopt it first. These consumer brands were the first ones on Instagram. They were the first ones on Facebook. They were the first ones on Twitter. They're the first ones to adopt the personalization software I was just talking about, the social media scheduling software. They're usually first to tech and social media platforms. But as you can see from those examples I just mentioned, most B2B brands now have Twitter, Facebook. A lot of us have Instagram. And what I see happening is eventually that same progression will be made, where we'll be on TikTok now. And the big I think for B2B brands, why the big thing about platforms like Instagram and the big thing for TikTok in specific, Twitter, a lot of business users on there, Facebook, a lot of business users on there, obviously. But the big thing for TikTok and Instagram is talking to your employees and potential employees and attracting them, right? Where you can show, look, we have this really awesome workspace. This is what we do on Fridays in the summer. This is what we play ping pong in the middle of the day. So talking to your current your current employees, but also talking to potential employees that you're looking to hire, and showing that where you work is a great place to work. And I've also seen a few B2B brands starting to test it out, and I anticipate in the next few years we'll see more B2B brands moving into TikTok. Academies. This one might be easier to see than the TikTok option. I'm sure a lot of you have heard or have done or seen the HubSpot and Salesforce academies. Pretty much a resource center, but you get a certificate at the end of it because you have to take a quiz. Larger B2B brands like HubSpot and Salesforce and multiple others use academies to train not only their employees, but clients mostly. And that acts as a way to create brand loyalty, to put yourself as a content leader, and multiple other fashions. So I see this continuing to be a trend where bigger companies are adopting it, and I see some smaller companies adopting it as well. So your resource center currently, if you have one, is likely doing a really good job. But what we'll see over the coming while for smaller B2B brands is to actually have an academy as well. So that means a lot more content that you're going to have to build out. There's some good software out there to do that. I'll leave that at that. But I think academies will be big over the next few years, and having to build those out. So keep an eye out for if your competitors are starting to build out academies and or complementary companies in your industry. Privacy changes, and I shouldn't have put this GIF in because it's quite funny and probably a bit distracting, but privacy changes are definitely something from the marketing and sales side to keep an eye out for in the coming years. Data privacy is growing in popularity. You constantly hear about it in the news. The big ones currently being GDPR, and I know there's some European individuals on the call today. So that's the European data privacy standard, and then you have CCPA, which is yes, Dave, we'll send over a copy of the presentation after in the recording, so no worries there. CCPA is the California equivalent of GDPR. It's pretty much GDPR, but for California. So with these two, and there's more coming out. Canada just put one on the table that is going to be GDPR, but more strict in regards to penalties, and that seems to be a little bit of a competition of who has the biggest penalties at this point. But Canada's coming out with their own. What we're likely going to see is the US at a federal level or continued state level of more privacy law coming out that'll affect likely all of your businesses if you have any clients there or information on anybody that is in that province or that state. And by state, I mean country, so country or state or what have you. And at the European individual level, them wanting their own slight version of GDPR, a little tweak, or the ones that aren't covered by GDPR. So keep an eye out for those privacy changes and try to get ahead of them if you can. The biggest way, if you wanted to get ahead of them, is look into GDPR and how you get prepped for GDPR, because that will be all of the ones that are coming out are going to be fairly close to GDPR. I'm very confident in that. They're going to have their own tweaks. They're going to have okay, you can do this, you can't do that. It'll be slightly different, but most of them will follow a similar standard as the gold standard that is right now of GDPR. So keep an eye out for privacy changes. And then another thing to keep an eye out in regards to changes is SEO changes. Everybody, I'm sure, is familiar with SEO, search engine optimization, ensuring that your website and your content shows up in the search results. But Google's constantly making changes. It's a constant changing ground, and the algorithm is unforgiving. As an example, we saw a large drop in our organic traffic that I mentioned earlier in June of 2021, and so did multiple other companies that I know. And then the other half of the companies saw an increase. So one big tip to take away from here is after this, go look at your analytics. And around June, July of last year, you'll likely see a drop in your organic traffic or an increase. And if you're not seeing one or the other, look at specific blog articles, look at specific pages, because you'll likely see a drop off or an increase. This was because of a Google algorithm change that was made, and it was a combination of a few different ones. But 2021 was a tough year, and it will continue to be tough. So keep an eye out for those big changes that are coming. Some of those big changes that are coming for SEO are optimizing for voice search. So if you've ever asked Siri or Amazon Alexa a good cheesecake recipe, then you understand that that's voice search. That's what you need to be optimizing for. Mobile first indexing, mobile friendly websites are not just about the user experience anymore. Google actually looks at that when they're ranking your website. So, and they're looking at it first. So ensure that you're on top of your mobile first responsiveness. And then the page experience. Last little point here to talk about, and what will be increasingly important, is it's not just about the speed of your website now. There's what Google has called page experience. You can find it by doing a Google search, Google page speed. It'll come up, I think it's pagespeed.dev.google, something along those lines. Just Google search page speed Google, and it'll be their page speed analyzer. And they're not just looking at speed. They have 6 different categories that they now use in their algorithm to rank your website when it comes to page speed. And the big thing coming in Q1 of 2022 is they added to the algorithm the mobile page speed experience. So how you're ranking in that. But what they're going to be adding now is the desktop version to be as a ranking point in your algorithm. So the big takeaway there from that last point is to run your website through Google page speed and determine what your page experience is, and get it into the good zone, the green zone, as they put it on their website before that gets added to the algorithm in Q1 of this year. Okay, that is it, everybody. I want to say thank you for your time today. I left 15 minutes at the end. Like I said I would. I see all of you are still with us, so I'll take that as a good sign that we've hopefully added some value here. I'll be sticking around for the next 15 minutes or so to answer any questions. If there are any, pop them in the Q&A and I will get to them. If you're taking off now, thank you again for your time today. And I hope you walked away with some practical tips for 2022. We'll send over the PowerPoint and the recording after the call. And yeah, that is it. So thanks again, everybody. Michael Dales wants to know, with so many people working from home, how do you identify the company? Good question. At Visitor Q, he's referring to, with a lot of people working from home, what we anticipated to see at the beginning of the pandemic was a drop off in, oh, it's Mark. Okay, awesome. Hey, Mark. What we saw at the beginning of the pandemic, and what we anticipated to see, was a drop off in the amount of companies we identified. But the good part about how company networks work is that most of the time you have to be on, they'll require that you're on a VPN in order to work from home, right? That's general network privacy and best practice for security, is that you're accessing the company network from you're accessing the company sites via a company network and a VPN. So what we saw was not really a drop in any traffic, because most of these people were on company networks, were on company VPNs that were registered to those companies. So therefore the IP comes back as that actual company. So that's how in the long answer short was short answer long, long answer short. We were able to still identify companies beyond the beyond when people started working from home.